Back to today. The session looks at something very, very close to my heart, everything behind me. It's live events, IRL, in real life, in venue, in person, not looking at a screen, live. Because, ladies and gentlemen, live esports events are mostly back. But where some stadia have opened their doors to capacity crowds, others are starting to very slowly open up. So this Live Matters module looks at the future of live esports events, and it's delivered by three fantastic speakers who today are coming live from the C-suite all over Asia Pacific. We have Akshat, Rathee, who is the Nodwin Games Managing Director. We have Adrian, Gaffor, Group CEO of Esports Business Network, and Ronald Robbins, who we're going to talk to first, who is the Chairman and CEO of Mineski Global. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We're going to see Akshat and Adrian in a minute, but let's have a first chat with Ronald. Ronald, good morning to you. Before we start, let's start with the first question. Who are you? Who do you work for? Where are you today?
Hey, Jasper, good morning. Thank you for having me here. My name is Ronald Robbins, and I'm the founder and CEO of Mineski Global. I'm one of those guys who are also a real competitive athlete way back in 2004. And fast forward 18 years after, here I am building very important assets of the stakeholder scene of esports. No? This is basically our third business coming into this industry and very much focused on the gaming space as well, Jasper.
Fantastic. So, and where are you now? You're usually in the Philippines, but where are you today?
I'm here in Jakarta.
Fantastic. So it's great to know that. I mean, thanks to these virtual worlds, and I know we're talking about live events, but thanks to virtual worlds, we can pick up with speakers from all over the planet. Ronald, tell us. I know that Mineski covers all sorts of facets of the gaming industry, and you really are a pioneer of the esports business in Southeast Asia. But can you tell us, specifically in the context of today, what live esports or what live gaming do you get involved in?
Speaking of live, like right now, we're currently part of Southeast Asian Games in Vietnam. It's currently spanning 2 weeks, and we have an ongoing activity actually right now. It's good that you asked. No? There's approximately more than 500 participants over 10 countries, fielding more than 6 to 8 participants, no? Meaning the countries are sending their teams. Vireza has been very, very helpful. They're part of the Vietnamese government that made sure that esports is part of this year's SEA Games again. That is coming from the SEA Games in Manila way back in 2019.
Yep.
And it is a medal event again, and that is going to be a very exciting milestone actually for the region. And it's getting bigger. It's bigger than it was a few years back.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on being involved in the SEA Games. So we said that the live esports business is coming back, but what did the last 2 years look like for Mineski?
We definitely built several things which focused on building stakeholder value. We at Mineski believe that the industry in general has to be bigger than it is today. Therefore, we have been building several new experiences around esports. The core feel of esports enthusiast is that feeling when you get into that arena and then you get you get these goosebumps watching your favorite team slugging it out, everybody shouting. And through the past few years, it hasn't really been easy to pull that off. Coming into the online or hybrid approaches that we used to. So we did some innovations in the online space, also in the hybrid space, and also even at the grassroots phase. We did prepare while everybody was limited, we actually thought of decentralizing mega events as well, just like how everything was approached during this past few years. So we actually built assets, more than 30 assets, which we call Go Gaming trucks, that allow us to execute experiences on the ground with limited capacity but high frequency. As of today, we executed, I think, more than 300 of those already on the ground in the past 6 months. So that is definitely something that we are moving on to providing the in real life experience for esports.
Congratulations. And you know, I always question whether watching something on a screen has that same effect as the goosebumps as actually being there, but that's very much down to a personal taste. And final question before we meet Akshat, but Ronald, how did you first get into the gaming business? You said you were an athlete. How did you get into the business, and what was your first big break?
So our story was really more, there were so many challenges as a esports athlete a couple of decades ago. Me myself being a gamer, we have identified so many problems. Starts from what your parents think at that time, like gaming is a dead end, don't waste your time, kind of a thing. And this actually gave us that energy to pursue what we want to do, is to make a better world for gamers like us. So we started to create a professional team. We started with basic sponsorship to be able to survive. And that was in 15 years ago. And our first big break was, we then decided to say, hey, we need a place to practice, so we need to think of something. And then we came up with this idea to set up our first business back in 2008, to set up a cyber cafe, to which in the Asian culture was a very big thing. Fast forward 10 years, that grew to 160 stores, more than 1,000. And that went down really fast because of what happened a couple of years back, because it's under amusement. Luckily, in Mineski, we always innovate and try to challenge ourselves. Starting 2010, we also created our entertainment business, which is MET, what people know now as the Events and Esports division of Mineski. And through that business unit, we actually created a very big impact to the community here in Southeast Asia. We're currently operating in the 6 major markets in Southeast Asia, and we're bridging the stakeholders, namely the brands that wants to be relevant in this space in an authentic manner, to be able to reach this very interesting audience. In the past few years, I also did mention we did something online, and we then realized that, hey, esports is really a sub-segment of gaming, and we should be much, much broader in terms of what we should do, that everybody actually deserves to have this kind of experience that we provide to the hardcore segment. There came our casual gaming platform that came out last year, to be able to cater to the other chunk of this industry. And it still focuses on the same model, advertising, and it gives the users online that experience. Like you can basically play casual games and get a pizza box delivered to where you are if you win, Jasper. So those are the things that we do.
I'm in. Done. I'm in. Just tell me where to go. So Ronald, thank you. Look, interesting stuff there. We mentioned gamers or athletes. We actually do have an entire session on that in a few weeks' time. So maybe we can get you back to talk about how gamers do need to be treated as athletes, because you have the training regimes, you have the pressures, the mental pressures, and what have you. Whereas most people think, a lot of people think that gamers are just 16-year-old school kids jacked up on energy drinks on their, on the sofa, which is not the case. So look, Ronald, you're going to whisk off into a virtual room. You're going to come back. We're going to have the whole panel together in a bit. But up next, we're going to meet Akshat, who is the managing director of Nodwin Gaming. He was there, and then he is there. Yay! Akshat, how are you? So Akshat, please, I know who you are, but if you could please tell everyone on the wide web who you are, Tell us a little bit more about Nodwin and where are you in the world right now? And before you answer, please, if there's anyone out there and you want to ask any questions, get them in and they'll be fed to me. But Akshat, over to you. Who are you?
Well, my name is Akshat. I am the co-founder of Nodwin Gaming. I started this about 7 years ago with my co-founder Gautam. We literally met online, and that was a thing. Nobody talks about it, but it was different way back then. On a small website called Team Liquid, and both of us used to play StarCraft together. He was from Canada, I was from India. We met online. We decided to go to play together. We played a couple of years with each other. And over time, just realized that playing cooperative PV, like 2v2s against the world, teaches us something about the player you're playing next to, right? So, for example, Gautam is awesome at doing things. He's a single-minded person who goes and does things extremely well. I'm the guy who will be the first person in the bar fight and get it started, and that's my call. And eventually, we found that we can work well together, and we founded Nodwin Gaming. We started it like most things in life out of an unmitigated disaster. It was a fire festival equivalent thing in India called the Indian Gaming Carnival. 2000, and we basically got swindled. We went to a gaming event. Everyone said it's going to be absolutely awesome. It was not awesome. They didn't have electricity there. Like, they didn't have a line that could bring electricity there. They didn't have anything. Everyone got swindled. We decided to go ahead. We all got drunk. We all decided to go ahead and do something in gaming. And here we are 7 years later.
And tell us more about Nodwin itself. So what does Nodwin do in the gaming industry?
We started off, Nodwin wanted to be like every other kid who had esports dreams. We wanted to go ahead and I went to some of our best partners right now. I went to DreamHack, I went to ESL1 Cologne, I went to the Worlds at LCS and LCK. These were beautiful dreams, and we all hope that someday we'd be able to go do something like that. And we have Nodwin has the exclusive license partner with ESL. For the South Asia region, we are the one who would run all those products here. That's how we started, and eventually I call it like being trained with a Michelin star chef. So go and learn from the best how to do things in the ecosystem. They've been there for more than nearly 2 decades now. And they've been doing it since forever. Jens and Ralph were phenomenal path breakers in this. So understood that, and then said, "Hey, let me go ahead and apply to India." Didn't work. Market wasn't ready, and then it took me about 5 years to go ahead and, as Nodwin, work with people like Valve to go ahead and help set up servers in India for Steam, make Counter-Strike easy, more accessible, run payment services that make sure that gaming and customers can actually pay for games, offered marketing services to go ahead and make games and publishers better. Then started doing some white label work. And I'm literally telling you year by year how Nodwin evolved. And eventually we started launching our own IPs about 4 years ago, started building that out, got acquired by a company called Nazara. We went to the stock market. It's India's only listed gaming company in the stock market, worth about depends on the stock market, but worth about 800 million to about 1.2 billion dollars in the stock market. Kept on expanding. Now we are in about 8 countries. We've got 220 people. Gaming and esports is in our core, but we have a lot of adjacent things like something that Jasper, you worked on, something called NH7 Weekender and YouTube fan festivals. We now have those in our portfolio. We end up going and doing them. Yeah, that's the one. I saw it at the back. and we ended up sitting there. So we have this theory that gaming and esports is absolutely awesome, but it will always be played by approximately 200 people. Because the people will change. Every sport has only a finite number of people you go ahead and watch. And those are the people you go ahead and target. And while you'll have a replenishment cycle through, like the academy thing we are doing right now, which will have newer and newer people coming out of the system, they will still be a finite number. The only way to go ahead and make it bigger is get watchers bigger. And that's the crusade we're on.
So tell us, in the context of today, obviously you do a lot. I know you create your own IP, but you also work with other partners. What live esports or events at the moment do you or are you looking to produce?
So we just finished about a week ago, really interesting event with one of our local live stream partners in India called Loco. They're invested in by the same people who run PUBG. The owners of PUBG is a company by the name of Krafton. Tencent runs it in certain parts of the world, but PUBG Mobile in India is run by Krafton. They're actually our investors along with Locos. And we went and set up India's first ever. It's called Battlegrounds India. It's a Indian variant of PUBG Mobile that runs. It's pretty much for people who don't understand it from other parts of the world. It's like how Counter-Strike is in Germany. It's got certain nuances. It's how PUBG Mobile is in China. It's called Peacekeeper Elite, and it's a variant. So games often get modified for cultural and geographical nuances. And this one is called Battlegrounds India. We just ran that LAN very, very successfully. We are looking for a very large portfolio of events that are happening over the next 5-6 months. Some very large ones with television, some really large ones on ground. And also our festival circuit of DreamHack is live. So we have DreamHack in Hyderabad that is happening. Fun-filled times.
Fantastic. Busy. So you mentioned how you got into the business, but what was the first big break for Nodwin?
There's a company by the name of NVIDIA. They asked us to go ahead and help them launch a concept called BattleBox. And then we were like, yes, we can. So we basically built custom PCs with NVIDIA with different price points and call them the battle boxes and put them out in the market to go ahead and say, hey, this is great. A lot of the work that Nodwin had to go ahead and do was, there's a very nice saying, it's by Einstein saying, if you ever want the perfect apple pie, you have to create the universe first. Right? So you need gravity, you need the Big Bang, you need gravity, you need the sun, then you need the earth, and you need to go ahead and have a certain amount of time that passes, then you need water, you need tree, then you need seeds, then you need an apple, and then it needs to fall on your head. Then that's the aha moment that you need to go ahead and do. So for the longest time, while we wanted to be the tip of the iceberg, and it's really important I go ahead and say this, gaming is yay big, right? Gaming is as big as the screen that you can have right now. But esports is the lighthouse that everyone sees, and because it's the sexy thing, it's the cool thing, it's the wow thing that a lot of people watch. But it doesn't work without everything else working. It doesn't work without the publisher, who's actually the federation here. Then it doesn't work without the players. It doesn't work without the teams. It doesn't work without tournament operators. It doesn't work without league operations. It doesn't work without ESIC, who's the integrity commission that is sitting out there. You need, if this is a sport and this is a sport we love, everything needs to work, right? And not just a thing. And our existence is to go ahead and, while everyone can look at the top of the iceberg and say this is awesome, there's about 90% below the surface.
There's a lot going on below the surface. Well, with that, the apple pie analogy, you've now made me very hungry. Now I'm more of an apple crumble kind of guy, but I'm willing to go with the apple pie analogy. Akshat, we're gonna whisk you off into the back room. You're gonna come back soon. Again, please, anyone out there, if you have any questions for these three amazing speakers, please get them in and they will be fed to me. Up next, we have Adrian Gaffor. Adrian, how are you? You are the Group CEO of the Esports Business Network. So please tell us, who are you, where are you, and tell us a little bit more about the Esports Business Network.
Sure thing. Thanks, Jasper. Appreciate it. Guys, so my name is Adrian, co-founder and the Group CEO of Esports Business Network, as Jasper said. Where am I right now? Based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. We have got offices in New Zealand, down in Auckland, KL in Malaysia. We've got 2 offices here, and we've just opened an office in the Philippines as well, right? We're currently operating in about 16, 17 countries with three of these offices. So exactly what we do and who we are, I guess, is next, right, Jasper? So the Esports Business Network is a group of companies, and all of the subsidiaries below it, we're all in the esports marketing space, right? The overall vision for the group is really to unite the world of gaming and esports with brands globally. And that everything that we do as part of our mission across all the subsidiaries is to create that perfect ecosystem that brands can access when they want to go into the esports ecosystem, touch base with the communities, build their own communities within the industry. So within that, I guess I'm going to break the subsidiaries down into a 2-minute spiel. We've got Orange Esports Cafes. It's the largest esports cafe business here in Malaysia, one of our oldest businesses. It's about 18 years old, 19 years old this year. So that's business number one. Subsidiary number two is Orange Esports, which started in 2013. We started with Dota. I think we were one of the first regional teams here to make it to the global stage. I think TI3, we got third place there. Since then, we've transitioned over to mobile gaming. So we've got PUBG mobile teams. We've got a Mobile Legends team playing in all the pro leagues here in Southeast Asia and in Malaysia and Singapore, as well as in Cambodia. And we also have a FIFA team right now that just bagged the bronze medal at the SEA Games. So very, very proud of them for that. Yeah. So that's company number two, all about team organizations and management. Company number three is probably the largest business within our group, which is TGC, stands for the gaming company. We're the first esports marketing company in Southeast Asia, currently one of the leading. So essentially what we do here is this is the number one access point for brands to access the world of esports. We work with 65 different brands across 15 different countries at the moment, anywhere from your Intels and HPs all the way down to the YouTubes and the Googles and Twitch, all the way down to the more non-endemic brands like Nivea Men, local telcos here, so on and so forth. All right. Anywhere from brand planning and strategy all the way down to the implementation and the execution. Treat us like a Leo Burnett, Gray, Ogilvy, but with the esports version. So that's company number three.
Is that working on the brand side, or is that working on the IP side? The teams. Sorry, for anyone, the team content owner, the player side.
Got it. So for us here, it's all about the brand side. It's all about if a brand has an objective, they want to build something within the space, they want to start integrating their existing marketing assets or marketing plans and bridging that gap into the world of esports and attracting that community. That's essentially where we come in. All right, in a full 360 manner. We also have a secondary strategy, which is all about own and operator IP. So we do own 4 or 5 different IPs at the moment, anywhere from university leagues to corporate leagues, all the way down to more grassroots-driven events. These are things that we use as community building features, and I think that the one leverage here is that we want to build an IP in every single place that a brand would like to go, whether it's the university market, the first, second jobless market. There are different target audience for brands there, and they all have a different appeal. So that's essentially what we want to do with our ecosystem. When a brand comes in, they can then not only craft their own campaigns, but they can also be attached onto all of the stuff that we do, whether it's our own IP or whether it's partnership IP with developers that we also do here. So that's company number 3. Company number 4 is Prime Live, is a talent management agency. And company number 4, company number 5, talent management agency. And then, of course, the last company that we have here is Frag Media, which is an esports performance marketing agency. So anywhere from social media all the way down to getting higher DAUs in a game once the game is launched in the local markets. That's something that we specialize in as well. And to bind everything together, the office that we're in at the moment is called the EBN Esports City. 65,000 square feet establishment here in the heart of KL. We've got a 1,000 capacity esports arena, offices here, green screen studios, so on and so forth. That's where all of us live, all 140 to 150 of us.
Next question, Adrian. When do you sleep?
4 hours a night since I started the company.
So look, I mean, thank you for that introduction. And I do remember when we were first introduced, I was kind of like, why haven't we met before? So back to the context of the session today. What are you doing in the live space, whether it's esports or gaming, but in the live event space, where are you playing at the moment?
Got it. So existing projects, I think that we've got now is anywhere from the PUBG Mobile Pro League to Valorant Champions Tour, from Riot Games in Malaysia and Singapore. That's all the Web 2 stuff, I guess. Call of Duty Mobile, the HPs, the Aces, the Vivos, all these projects that we have ongoing at the moment, as well as Twitch and One Esports projects. We specialize in doing on-ground esports events across Southeast Asia and Asia, including Oceania as well. That's what we're existingly doing. We are also doing a portion of the SEA Games, but everything to do in Malaysia. So that's that national service portion, I guess, anywhere from finding the national athletes to teaming up with the government associations to train them up. And then, of course, my team's down there at the moment with them at SEA Games. So wishing them all the best. From a live events perspective, I think we cover anywhere from the execution of the event all the way down to the live broadcast, all of that hybrid version of an event. That's something that we very, very frequently do. I think over the past 2 years, we've still done over 250 to 350 events.
Fantastic. Well, and then final question before we bring the panel back. And by the way, Tom Leonard, thank you for your question. I will be asking it shortly. But Adrian, back to you. What was your first big break? How did you get into gaming?
I've always been a marketing and advertising guy. So I actually came from Grey all the way back in 2010. I really wanted to merge a passion point of mine as part of my career. So I love marketing and advertising. I love playing games, although I wasn't as good as Ronald. I wasn't a professional. I think I'd be the ones that people scold when I go in the game for not doing the right thing at the right time. But I did want to bring these two things together. Looked at an agency model, looked at the revenue dissection within the esports and gaming industry all the way back in 2010. And what I found out was that about 90% of all esports revenue was driven by brands and sponsors, right? Why are there no marketing agencies that bridge that gap? Why are there no advertising agencies that are not just educating brands to come in, but supplying them with some sort of roadmap and strategy to bridge the younger generation into the new age marketing world, right? So that's how it started. Similar to Akshat, right? Our first event didn't go very well at all the way back in 2015, but we've slowly built ourselves then all the way up. We went from owning and creating our own event to 100% being a service provider, and then only of recent years transitioning back to starting to create and own those IPs again. Brands to thank for, I guess, for helping us get where we are today. The first 3 brands that we onboarded was Mountain Dew, was Red Bull Malaysia, as well as Celcom from the Axiata group back in 2014 and 15 when we first launched our company.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for joining us today. Fascinating story. In fact, fascinating story for all 3 of you. So we're going to bring Ronald and Akshat back. So we have had our first question, which is from Tom Leonard, the Gamers Change Lives podcast. I believe he's live in Los Angeles, so it's getting late at night there. So I'm going to ask his question first. Akshat, to you first. Do you have any advice for getting sponsors for live events?
So you have to actually put on a sponsor's hat for 5 seconds, right? And I know it will sound bad sometimes. It's not meant to be, because eventually once you go through the chat, you can actually go ahead and go for the gold. Sponsors are not easy. Sponsorship is fairly complicated, and it actually works on 3 metrics. First is reach. Sometimes sponsors don't care about anything except the reach that you go ahead and get. Those are the people who are fundamentally using the word sponsorship in lieu of advertising. They're going and saying, hey, if you get 1 million views on this, what's the CPM of this 1 million views? And I'm just throwing a dollar there, which is there. So great, 1 million divided by 100,000, by 1,000, and then that's $1. So that property is worth about $1,000.
Actually, let me just interrupt you there. When you're talking about CPMs, you mean a cost per 1,000. So it's the cost of reaching 1,000 people. By the way, anyone who's watching this, Akshat is a mathematical genius. But I just wanted to, in case someone didn't understand what CPM meant. Sorry, continue.
Right. So if that's there, it's $1,000. That's your product is worth $1,000. Now you might be saying, oh, but YouTube pays me so much more, or Twitch can pay me so much more for that views. Sure, go monetize it, and that's fine. Nobody stops you going and doing it, but that money doesn't go to the sponsor. The sponsor is fundamentally coming for the reach. And there are companies, that's things like Repucon that was earlier there and now part of Nielsen, that will actually go ahead and empirically show what value is. And then if you watch any sport, then if you have a logo on the right or the left, or on the helmet or on the car, and it has the seconds of exposure, and that's what you go ahead and get viewership for. And so every eyeball is worth a certain amount of money. That amount of money is based on the country. That multiplied by the reach gives you a certain value that is available for people, and that is your empirical value. So if you come up saying, "No, my product's worth $100,000," yeah, no, why? And that's one of the fundamental whys you need to go and answer. Now there is a way that you can every user is not the same. Think of it like going and saying, "Hey, you are a Fiat and a Ferrari at the same time, and you want to go ahead and get customers." So a Ferrari will go ahead and pay a bundle of money to go ahead and be inside a great golf course, because those are the customers that can pay more. And so every customer is also not worth the same in the same country. It's about the TGs that you go ahead and define. The other part is adjacency. And so sometimes customers, for example, Adrian just talked about Red Bull, and Red Bull is not fundamentally targeting gamers as that, hey, you are a gamer, I want to go ahead and sell to you. They're going and saying, hey, gaming and lifestyle and culture is adjacent to each other, and I'm targeting this cohort because that cohort gives me there. So because I'm not legitimate there, I will build legitimacy. And sometimes the cost of building legitimacy is the ability to go ahead and put yourself out there and charge a certain price for building that level. But they will measure you. They will measure you from net promoter scores. They will measure you from baselining score, saying that, hey, if out of 1,000 random people, if we ask them, what are we doing in gaming, will people come back and say, we are doing something in gaming at the end of year one? And if that needle has not moved, they'll not renew with you, and your product is not worth as much. And the third and the final one is, never forget about this. A lot of people will go ahead and use the word sponsorship, especially if you are an endemic to the industry, as a sales funnel. So people will go ahead and say, hey, I'm Intel. I'd like to go ahead and sponsor you because I expect X amount of pieces of my product to go ahead and sell. Understanding who you are getting sponsorship from and what metric they're moving is an extremely important part for sponsorships. Once you get that, you'll find the people you're either going to is a waste of your time or their time, and you'll actually go to lesser number of people, but better people, and you'll convert better.
So I think that's a very detailed answer. It's a great question, Tom. I'm going to change the question slightly, and Ronald, I'm going to come to you. For people wanting to attract sponsors, so IP owners wanting to attract an IP owner, and your market something to Adrian, who's working on the brand side, for example. What advice can you give people in terms of getting brands involved? Is it a tactical campaign? Is it like an ad, or is there more of a partnership relationship? Any advice you have for people wanting to work with brands?
Thank you for that, Jasper. It's several approaches actually for, say, for example, IP execution when you talk about bringing in the brands. First of all, majority of the IPs, you already have an anchor partner before you even commence. The challenge with executing your own IPs in the esports space, there's another layer to the ownership of the game IP itself, which are the publishers. Within our experience, we have set up several franchise leagues already, and it comes to different tactics when it's operated and owned by game developers themselves or private esports organizations. So it comes in a very distinct approach. If you talk about where we are currently working with, say, for example, Montun, where we operate for them Mobile Legends professional leagues in different countries here in Southeast Asia, the commercial rights are also given to us. So when we talk about that, it's more of a co-shared responsibility in bringing the brands. cohesiveness within this partnership, such as creating value from within these properties. Because you have to think outside of just, hey, there's how many teams, and then you run this tournament this way, and this is the schedule, and it gets done. For brands, that's not really like, what's the inventory? Where can I execute, as what Akshat was mentioning earlier, their win? Because the way that you design things is that what is to be executed was already extracted from what the sponsors actually want to get as well. So you have to have the win-win mindset framework. In this case, win-win-win with publishers. You'd start, yeah.
We had a lovely piece of advice. We were talking to Activision Blizzard recently, and their global creative director, the global creative officer gave the advice to brands saying, you have to be useful. You actually have to be providing a benefit to the gamer. Otherwise, you're in the way. Get out of the way. I'm going to ignore you. So look, we have a sponsorship session next on the 26th of May, whether that's Wednesday or Thursday next week, I can't remember. But so anyone can tune in for that. And look, we're getting a lot of questions coming in. We've had some questions from Gaming Esports Opinions. Thank you for that. Most of them aren't necessarily relevant to the live esports context, but there's a question about the scale of mobile esports versus PC esports watching. Now, we are talking about live events, but let's just take a little sidebar on there. Adrian, perhaps you can answer. What's the difference to a lay person like myself? Is mobile esports watching bigger than PC, or which is the winner here, mobile versus PC?
So I think it really depends which region in the world that you're situated in, right? There are PC number one markets in the world, and there are mobile first markets, right? Southeast Asia is definitely a mobile first point. I think everyone here can agree to that, right? And when it comes to viewership, I think it really also resides on that fact that if you're in a PC first market, obviously the majority of your viewers are going to be situated and tuned in over there. Whereas if you're in a mobile first market, like Southeast Asia that we're all in right now, it is definitely that mobile first market. And I do feel that where that stems from, it's really how the technology and the infrastructure has kind of rapidly developed in certain parts of the world versus the so-called emerging markets, what we term that in here, right? To get access to play a game in Southeast Asia via a mobile phone versus a PC number one, I think it's all about that buying power that people have here. The access that they have to the hardware is number one. Once they've acquired the hardware, then comes to the next step, which is all about the infrastructure. How stable is your networks in India, in Singapore, in Malaysia, in the Philippines, right? That then dictates what kind of level of quality of gameplay you can have, and then that transcends down to what kind of viewership experience that you can have. So I do feel that it is very much divided based on region. I don't think that there is a clear winner, nor do I want to put my foot and say that there is a clear winner, because I do feel that everybody has to be well represented within the entire ecosystem.
Just taking what Adrian just said, I remember when the first time I met Ronald and I'd come to Philippines and spent some time with there. Philippines is a very strong PC first market with predominantly because of what Mineski built as all their PC cafes and their entire ecosystem. It's a great Dota country, but it's also a great mobile country, right? It's a great mobile country where titles like Genshin Impact or Call of Duty Mobile or even Free Fire are all doing well. In our country, at different times of games not being banned, PUBG Mobile, now called BGMI, or Free Fire, were the master and the larger games which is there. But the third most watched esports title in the country of India is Valorant, right? So it also is it is regional, and so you might have the number one game in the region based on the format that is native to the region. But if you say top five, you'll see a good mix in every country. You'll start seeing very strong mixes based on the ways that it is there. So that's not going and saying that the only sport that runs in the Philippines is boxing or the NBA. No, like I can tell you 5 sports that work there. And if we have to go ahead and look at esports, we have to stop looking at the word called esports as, hey, this is the Olympics. No, there are titles that work. And sometimes the world championship or even the local championship of that title will be bigger than the Olympics per se. Football in Olympics, right? Which is bigger, the Football World Cup or the Olympics?
Exactly.
So moving on and back to the subject for today around live events and moving from technology. I mean, there's a lot of talk about live. There's a lot of talk about virtual. A lot of talk about this new word hybrid. Hybrid, I've always said, started with the sports industry. The first time a camera went into a stadium, that became a hybrid event, right? And much of the esports industry is hybrid anyway, thanks to streaming. But what's the winning model here for you all? Is it a mixture of live and streaming? Does streaming beat live? Ronald, start with you.
For us, Jasper, it's really everything can be one. It's a matter of how you design things. Hybrid has been a very helpful approach through the circumstances the past few years. Having one big offline event also helps, or having 100 offline smaller events also help. It's really a mixture of the design, and again, going back to that win-win, coming into that engagement for the fans, for the developers, and for the brands. What is that picture of success? And we design that first before we execute.
Adrian.
Yeah, I think very, very true on what Ronald has mentioned. Like there are benefits to having hybrid events, live events, and virtual events. I think it all boils down to the overall objective of what you're trying to achieve. If it's going to be something like viewership numbers, like reach, attracting communities or regional and global communities, I think that virtual events is definitely something that can definitely be latched onto. Hybrid events, of course, is the overall natural of achieving that on-ground touch points, getting the heavy engagements for brands and so on and so forth on a very different level, right down to point of sale even. And then having the added value being the live component, the virtual component that comes in as the added value, attaching on multiple components like content, the live events, the ads, so on and so forth. The whole delivery of that ecosystem comes in as the value add for them. If their overall objective is then point of sale, right? So, I mean, hybrid definitely is a winning model, but depending on what your main objectives are, like what Ronald said, you need to design that infrastructure first before you go into the execution and the implementation stage.
Cool. Now, on this, still on formats and stuff, there's a lot of conversations everywhere at the moment about the metaverse, about these things. I mean, the wonderful one's on, a bit clunky. What do we think? Is the metaverse? Look, I mean, there was an article yesterday saying this isn't just gaming, but for live events, is it an opportunity or threat? Akshat.
I'm going to answer both questions, this one and the last one together, because I think they're very interconnected. And I'll posit this with a hypothesis question. Why do you go to a concert? Is it to listen to the music? Why do you go to a sports event? Why do you go watch the NBA? Is it to go watch the NBA? You can watch the game better at home with the camera angles and the statistics and everything. You go there for the ambience, right? There's a reason you go to the theaters to go out and watch a movie and you don't watch it on Netflix. There's a reason you go to a concert, because it's the energy of humanity that is around you that is jumping up and down to go to do. I've gone to a Formula One race, and Gaming Matters is going to be at the Formula One weekend. It's horrible to watch the sport sitting in the ground. This is what you see. And you're like, what was that again? It was a red car. Wasn't it a Ferrari? Who's driving it? You have no idea. And then you look around for the content, but you go there for the experience, the mates and the friends and the energy that is. So if you look at that, then the physicality of live events is predominantly creating an atmosphere of humanity. Sorry, I always talk like a professor, but it is about the ability to get human people at a location and create a studio audience, albeit 100,000 people large studio audience, that is awesome. It gets more color to the broadcast. Yeah, you make money from the broadcast. Don't ever forget that. In sports, you make money from the broadcast. You never not make money from the broadcast. The ticket sales will go ahead and make you maybe sustainable at best, but most of the times you're getting a really cool studio audience that will make your broadcast awesome, and then give a great experience to the people who are actually coming there. And that's what we saw after the disaster of the last 2-3 years. This entire thing of human beings coming back with a vengeance, going and saying, I want to be with other human beings. We could have done this virtually. And now to this question you asked, that metaverse is just a manifest, it's an extension of what happened in the last 2 years. So as I don't think it'll stop. I think it'll become better and better. The experience of the virtual audience will become better and better and more realistic. However, nothing will replace the live audience, because you can't shoot people going and watching things on a metaverse or a live broadcast. It's great for a viewership. It's a better viewership experience. It's a more immersive viewership experience. Doesn't change at all. I think it actually makes the physical experience even more premium, because people will now want to come to the physical experience more. And I posit that physical experiences will reprice themselves to double the price in the future.
That's a note I'm taking down. Adrian, what do you think? The metaverse, friend or foe? Friend or foe to live events, not to gaming.
No, I do think it's definitely an opportunity. It's not a threat. I do feel that very much like what Akshat said, right? The one great thing about live events in general is the atmosphere. It's all about that togetherness. The fact that you see all these guys play online every day and you play with them every day, but how often are you in the same location as them? There's a totally different atmosphere. There's a different bond that gets created through homegrown events that you don't often have online, or there's always that missing component of being together and getting the goosebumps when people scream when there's a kill in Dota, or when there's a goal scored in a football match. I don't think that's ever going to be replaceable in that sense, right? And why I do see it as an opportunity is because I do feel that because of the inclusion of the metaverse, or that coin term now, it's going to force a lot of live events to include more gamification elements, more new tech into the existing live events, and it's going to create more value for that consumer. It's going to create more value and more revenue monetization strategies for event organizers, and it's going to create more revenues for brands that want to come in on a very different level, like always pushing that gap of what a live event is currently to what it can potentially be in the future, right? Whether it's AR, whether it's whatever, virtual events and so on and so forth. But I do feel that live events is definitely here to stay. It's just that tech inclusion is going to be very apparent in the future.
It's interesting. This is an ongoing debate that we have, where we who went to music festivals, we who went to esports festivals, we who went to big sporting events, against the next generation who are sofa playing games, or on TikTok or Twitch or YouTube watching content. You say to them that jump on a bus for 10 hours and camp in a muddy ditch and queue for a Portaloo for an hour. Come on, they're going to go, nah. But let's see. And that was and Ronald, any thoughts from you about what's going on with new tech and the metaverse?
Yeah, I agree with Akshat and Adrian. It's definitely a growth pillar for the industry as a whole. Anything that comes to new experiences is definitely something that would be something to look forward to. More than 5 years ago, I already imagined a similar to a World of Tanks being simulated live in a big arena where everybody's wearing virtual, and that is projected in a way that makes it immersive for all of the audiences to watch, even from all over the globe. But on ground, you can then market the physique of these athletes. Now you see them having the touch point with a mobile phone, a mice, or a keyboard. Moving forward, having more mobility, running around, jumping around, and doing all of this stuff is definitely something to look forward to. And there are actually some Japanese companies that are already working on this. Very interesting stuff as well. So that's something to watch out, Jasper.
Brilliant. So I think we got time for 2 more questions. Let's jump back into, I mean, the Gaming Masters Academy is designed to help people with their, understand more about gaming, young people in the gaming industry, how to succeed and get on in their careers, young gamers to understand the business of gaming, or even people outside the gaming industry to understand how the gaming industry works. Something that's come through a lot with gaming, also with our sports academy and music academies as well, is that in a lot of parts of the world, gaming and esports is, and I think, Ronald, you may have mentioned it earlier with your parents, it's not a credible career. So how, and let's start with you, Ronald, because you did bring it up first. How does anyone looking to get into the industry, what advice can you give them, and how can the industry make itself more credible, or do I even use the word sexy?
Actually, it already starts from the grassroots level. We believe that no matter what we say, and I've been there for the past 2 decades, it's something that is very easily forgotten. So we have undergone several initiatives tying up with universities. Universities now already have courses on specifically setting them up for opportunities within that industry, may that be game design, production, and a lot more things, especially now with the Web 3.0 coming out. It's basically anyone can do anything very fast because it's decentralized. You don't need like a conglomerate to get something, something running. Like you can do it alone even because of the tools that are readily available right now. It may be hard as of today, but it's there. So if that is something that can be utilized well from the younger market to get into gaming, they themselves are actually creating their own adventures already for that. So it's definitely gonna happen, Jasper. If you just look at overall global market, like games and the digital entertainment is more than twice Hollywood and movies altogether. So
And music.
there's at $150 billion per year. I think we're already past. Hey, mom, I think there's something here.
So mom's not going to say, well, go and be an accountant.
Yeah, you can be better than Brad Pitt in this industry, because everything's just twice as big.
So
Depends if you're an Asian. It depends if you're an Asian mom. She'll probably tell you to go.
I can't. I'm not allowed to say that. Akshat. So similarly, what's some great career advice you've ever got, or career advice you can give to someone wanting to get into gaming, and how do we make gaming more credible?
I think the credibility is here. I think I'll go with what Ronald talked about. I think I have a very cool friend. He's you know him. His name is Vijay Nair. He kind of built OML in India, and he and I were having this heated argument. And at the end of it, he said, "Akshat, you don't need to do anything. You're in an industry where your audience becomes younger every day, and you add 20 million, 30 million more kids to your TG every year. You just have to wait for 4 years." He actually said that 4 years ago. So the legitimacy will come from consumption. It'll come from brands. It'll come from commerce. People will get behind this. Brands will get behind this. Companies will get behind this. Countries will get behind this because it is too big to ignore, right? It's a very simple problem of numbers. You can't ignore gaming on this planet anymore. That's fine. Now the only question is, what do you want to do with it? You want to be a streamer? Sure. Chance of success less than 0.02%. Everyone thinks streaming is the easiest thing in the world. It's not. Remember, if you can go ahead and do this from home, everyone else can. And so the only way you'll be great at it is if you are great at something. So pick something, be passionate about it. It's like, this is the new entrepreneurship, right? If you want to be free, this is the new gig economy. You want to go ahead and not go ahead and do gigs. You want to go ahead and rent your house out at Airbnb. Everyone can rent their house out at Airbnb. But if you want repeat customers and you want a great place, you've got to do great reviews. People have to keep talking about what you're doing, and you have to build something iconic. Hard work and being differentiated is the only way to go ahead and do this. If everyone is doing English with Dota 2 try Tagalog on Mobile Legends Bang Bang, and if you're the first person doing it and you're doing it really well, you will build a community. do something special for cohort. And your cohort doesn't have to be bigger than 1,000 people or 10,000 people. Trust me, if you get 10,000 people liking you, the social engines of the world will make you bigger. Everyone starts with no followers. Trust me, no one starts with followers. And eventually, if you're good, people will keep coming to you. And then build that and keep building that. I know we manage in our talent management business, we manage an athlete that has less than 30,000 followers. Right? And you'll be like, but who's going to go ahead and pay anything for them? He makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he makes hundreds of thousands of dollars because those 30,000 people who follow him are extremely influential. Right? It's not just the numbers game, it's who follows you.
Fantastic advice. Now, Adrian, just final on this question, but what is the best career advice you have ever received?
Career advice that I've ever received, I think it's like one sentence, right? Build sustainability and then growth. So we've always been a company that has always focused on sustainability first, and then gone ahead and expand with the resources that we have had, right? No investors, no funders, 100% ground up, myself and my partners. And it's a very core foundational business kind of mantra, right? That you need to develop something that is sustainable, right? So that you can then rely on it. Your family of team members can then rely on it, right? Brands can then rely on you, and then your foundation is built from ground up from that starting point, right? So that would be the best piece of career advice I think that I've gotten, and I think we've stayed very much true to that for myself over the past 8 to 9 years, but in the bigger extent of our group, 18 to 19 years, and that's why over the past 2 years we're stronger than ever.
Fantastic. So okay, the final question to the three of you, and we'll stay with you, Adrian. It doesn't have to be about live events. It doesn't have to be about gaming. What's really exciting for you right now, Adrian?
The exciting points, I think we're heavily launching ourselves into the Web3 space, not just within that esports realm, but from a consultancy point of view on everything that we know from the esports industry. I think that's number one. Number two, I think we're very much rapidly expanding. I think it's always awesome for a founder or for a CEO to walk into the office and to have someone new every day, like, oh, hey, welcome to the family, right? And you're repeating that every day, and that's kind of that core source of motivation. Partnerships, I think, is another core source. Like more and more valuable partners want to come and work with you. They start in discussions. I think that's always that very exciting realm to be in. And I think lastly, I think it's for us right now, it's about M&As and investments moving forward, right? What are the companies that we can potentially have under our belt that tremendously add value to our network of clients and brands out there right now, as well as the community? That's number one. And number two, how do we then take our 5-year roadmap and shrink it down to a 3-year roadmap with potential partners that we're looking at the moment? So these are the few exciting points.
Brilliant. Akshat, exciting for Nodwin right now?
We're doubling down in what we are doing here. I think we'll build out this play of what we have in gaming and esports, both on a geographical basis and look at other emerging markets where we can go ahead and have some kind of footholds, and more across IPs that we believe are extremely important for us. We also believe extremely in esports events, so we will be commissioning multiple IPs, both on the live space, both on a B2B and a B2C level, for us to go ahead and targeting specific communities that we believe are under-addressed. It doesn't matter whether it can be a gaming community, it can be a identity community that is around gaming. We are all great. I think women are underserved in gaming. I think that's definitely a strong focus for us to go ahead and look at. We all keep talking about it, but again, there's just four men sitting in this and talking about gaming, and there are enough women out there. And we do need that voice to start coming out. It'll be better for the industry. It'll be larger. We'll get better brands. We'll get a better community coming out of it. So yeah, those are our immediate focuses, which is that we will continue our expansion strategy both on IPs and geographies.
Fantastic. So Ronald, We started with you. We're going to end with you. What's really exciting for Mineski right now?
For Mineski, I was about to say something about personal, not about.
Oh, no, please. What's exciting for Ronald first?
It's fine. So for Mineski, we've been doubling up for the past few years and having the same trajectory. Scaling, I think, is echoing from Akshat and Adrian being in this industry. It is growing very, very fast. Being part of the journey in itself of building an organization that is growing this fast is definitely something that already excites you. You dream about it, wake up early in the morning, and it's still 4 o'clock in the morning ish. We're also at the cusp and at the border of figuring out in really breaking through and engaging a much, much more larger audience outside of just esports, which is casual gaming. And in early June, we actually have a press conference that is going to be very huge for us. And that's something about breaking the borders of Southeast Asia and then having something global. And then that's what keeps me up at night now, Jasper. So
fantastic. And does that then bridge into the personal side of things, or what else is exciting? You've got to say it now because you flagged it.
Yeah. Personally, I'm constantly making myself uncomfortable. I'm into extreme sports, 4x4, diving, ice ski, you name it, man. Like this is something that in a chapter of our life where we ought to experience really, because we're now transitioning in the business of experience. So I myself have to go through and understand what all of this actually gives beyond the things that I'm already comfortable with, like golf and whatnot. So getting into these thrill activities, I even did skydive already, just to understand, what's the logic of people doing and having this hobby in their day-to-day lives. And that makes me understand everybody a lot better beyond the gaming market.
Fantastic. Well, we've gone way over time, but that's because you three are brilliant to talk to. And thank you so much for giving us your time. I'm just going to try and summarize. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't get to because we ran out of time. There's a lot of questions that came in from everyone, and thank you so much for those questions that we couldn't get to. But we talked about the goosebumps you get when you walk into an arena, and that's what today is all about. We talked about gamers being athletes. We talked about the apple pie needing a universe, and I am now genuinely starving for lunch. We talked about sponsorship, and it's not easy, and the various facets within. We talked about format, an event format being dictated by your objectives, but it's about being there, but also at the same time bringing in that hybrid future. The opportunity in the metaverse, that I'm preaching to the choir on that one. I mean, we're going to talk about the metaverse for the gaming industry. I think that question was probably more suited for the music industry, but we talked about the credibility within the industry for a career in the industry. One of you said it starts at the grassroots. One of you said it starts with commerce. But you also said be passionate, work hard, differentiate yourself. And a lovely quote here: be special. That's a new one. We talked about building sustainability and then finally touched on Web3 at the end. So there could have been a lot more there, but we just ran out of time. So if I can say thank you again to everyone who joined in today to ask those questions. If I can say thank you to Akshat, Ronald, and Adrian. Brilliant session. Later this afternoon, we are going into the wonderful, wacky world of data with Newzoo and Nielsen. That's at 4:30 Singapore time this afternoon. But thank you again to everyone for joining the Gaming Matters Academy. And next week, we're talking about sponsorship with a load of brands. So thank you very much for joining.